After that, I became free to listen more on political happenings of the country. So I was close. I was in ODM, so I was following things around the party. Up to this moment, that is what I can say.
Thank you, Beatrice. I'll now invite the Deputy Speaker to ask you the first question.
Thank you, Mrs. Moy. Kenya's arid and semi-arid lands have suffered documented historical marginalization. Currently, there's a lot of attention on climate change and climate resilience, and therefore, the docket to which you're nominated, the East African Community and ASAL region and regional development, is actually at the center of this. If approved, what is your vision in respect to this historical marginalization of those areas, and how will you help steer that vision of ensuring that there is climate resilience and more speedier development in those regions? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, Madam. It is true, arid lands where I belong, fortunately, Turkana falls under arid lands, has suffered many years of marginalization, and I tend to believe I saw that happen because I was present and I'm present where these things were being done. The marginalization that is coming to these arid lands is specifically on the stereotype and the information and the media that has reflected us in a very negative way. I also know we've never benefited. The arid lands have never benefited. Sorry to speak like this because I am also an arid person, so I've been a victim of these things. So sometimes when I say I mean the circumstances through which I also grew is relevant. So what we need to do right away to make sure this marginalization and everything else is working to the realization of climate resistance is incorporating the arid lands, the policies, the people, and everything else into negotiating, talking, and then have their issues raised in a way that it will finally come to the ministry at headquarters for policy influence. The pastoralists actually are the most that get effects of drought. They get effects of drought. They lose animals. They lose socioeconomic activity. They totally get affected out of this climate change. So by incorporating them into the bigger plan of the ministry, they will be able to speak from what they know, and they will be able to get better attention and better resolutions to the effect of this drought in a manner that would actually make them cope with what they are going through all the time. And also making sure, because it is one of the areas that is more affected in terms of receiving the impact of climate change, they need really to be cushioned in a way that they will be able to survive around these areas because they can't go away. That is their home place. That is where they know better. So by incorporating, it means we go and get homegrown issues that would be captured within the policy level. And even when we are talking of cushioning them during the drought, actually that would mean whatever that is supposed to be for them must be taken down to where they can feel and utilize it. So I feel the policies that are supposed to enhance climate resistance, the ability to cope, should actually incorporate be from the top, down, down, up, so that at least there is that movement up, down, incorporating themselves.
Majority Leader, you've just come in. Are you ready to ask a question? Go
yes,
ahead.
Thank you. Just for the benefit of the nominee, my name is Kemani Shongwa. And Beatrice, I see you have a very rich background in social work, and you also mentioned you worked with Oxfam as a relief food officer. And I'm certain you know part of your work in this ministry will involve the procurement and distribution of relief food. But this is one area that has been riddled with a lot of malpractices, especially the procurement and distribution. I'd want to hear what you would do if you are approved by this committee to ensure, one, that we have a very accountable system of procurement of the relief food and how it will be distributed on the ground to make sure that it gets to the right people, not benefiting government officers who are charged with the responsibility of distributing it. Two, I don't see in your CV and your work experience any experience touching on trade matters. And you know, the EAC docket with the East African community, trade is very critical. And part of the problems we have encountered in the recent past is having the government of Kenya not being present to negotiate on behalf of the country with the EAC countries. And we see an influx, especially of agricultural products, from onions from our neighboring countries, potatoes, at times maize. Farmers in the south and North Rift, where you come from, suffer with their maize, and they can't market their maize because cheaper maize is coming from our neighbors in the region. What specific measures will you put in place to make sure that you negotiate for Kenya so that properly at the EAC to get exemptions on the tariff barriers that are there to make sure that our farmers are protected? Finally, I see you are a member of the selection panel of the Azimio Running Mate selection panel. That, and I'm asking this question because it would have a bearing on your decision-making abilities and capability. Do you think you made the right decision in your running mate decision in Azimio?
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa Majority Leader, Mr. Kimani. Now, on procurement on relief foods. Actually, the procurement process does not really have to be specific to the relief food. Procurement processes under finance are very clear, they are well stipulated, and the procedures must be followed in the sense that if a particular government, a particular institution would want to feed the people, and you've decided on a particular product to take to the people, what you do is you just advertise as it's been, you do all those procedures up to where you award the tender to distribute. And now, after that, by the trickle down and up effect that we are saying, let's incorporate the communities down and then influence what happens here, originating from them. What we will do, we will produce a list of the potential beneficiaries or those ones that need to be helped or to be cushioned from the drought. Then those ones, lists that informs those that will benefit. Because the story to do with whether food reach the people or not, it's sometimes the making of the careless people because they think God in heaven is not watching. It is just good to be truthful. When it is time to feed the people, buy the food, make sure it reaches the most vulnerable members of the society. So for me, the procurement process is still as it is in the other ministries, in the other public finance management acts.
Chair, maybe before she moves away from that question, Beatrice, particularly what I want to hear, I don't know if you have been briefed from the ministry, what happens? In the procurement of real food, they will usually go to some organization called the supplies branch. They pre-qualify people as suppliers of relief food with set prices. Then when they are procuring, they will usually just give tenders to those who are already pre-qualified within the system. But from the time the supplies branch is pre-qualifying people, the prices given vary. For instance, a bag of maize or beans a year ago or 9 months ago may not be the price today. What I want to hear in terms of getting value for money for the people of Kenya, will we continue with the same old system through supplies branch, or will you come in with new thinking to make sure that the procurement process is very transparent? You are able to match with the market prices, because there's no reason buying a bag of maize for 6,000 shillings or when the current market price is 4,000 shillings, simply because the people who are pre-qualified by the supplies branch were pre-qualified at a time when the prices were 6,000. That's what I would want to hear. What new innovation, what new thinking are you bringing to the ministry?
Thank you, Mheshimiwa Kimani. My understanding is...
So address them through the chair.
Through the chair?
Yes.
Through the speaker?
Yes.
Sir. Okay, I get you. Now, I think what we need to do is, of course, there are malpractices that people have gotten used to. And having been a relief monitor, the process are very clear, just like the way you would procure. Of course, there is pre-qualification. But again, value for money should be informed by the market prices, such that you don't bring people that escalate or put the prices up for other value, yet the market price does not go along with it. I think if I'll be approved by this committee, I'll make sure I'll be myself present in terms of, if this is the pre-qualification, what is the market price, so that we get value for money. And then on the side of trade, whether I have knowledge of trade, through the chair, Mr. Speaker, sir, and I'm used to, sorry. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would want to say that maybe the issue of trade is not really captured in my CV, but I can assure you I'm from Turkana, where we ourselves trade with the community from Sudan, which is part of the state member of EAC, and we've also traded with a community from Uganda, which is also a member state of EAC. So when it comes to trade, there are two ways of doing it. One, there's that one of barter trade, where you are like commodity exchange for other commodities. There are also where monetary currency is involved. So, but sometimes, even as we speak of procurement being having variance in prices, I still believe even in the trade, the commodities that are brought, we must also study, because this commodity is not centralized in a place. It is all agricultural, sorry?
Nominee.
Yes, Speaker.
You didn't get his question.
Okay.
East African Community, like all other regional trade blocs, trade is governed by rules. It's not about getting a bag of maize and cross to Sudan and come back with a cow, or vice versa. It is a trade regime that is complex, dealing with customs, movement of goods, who produces what, who sells what. And when the East African Community countries come together, they formulate rules that govern how we trade with each other to give advantage to everybody. So his question is, your CV doesn't have anything to do with that kind of regime. If you are find favor with the committee and get this office, how are you going to handle East African affairs, knowing, and this has come up before, that Kenya is a poor negotiator at the table of trade with its partners, that we have that history. What are you going to do to improve our bargaining chip at the table of trade negotiations? That is the question that the majority leader was asking you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will answer that. Anything that is falling under...
Speaker, probably even just to put it in layman's terms, for instance, between us and our neighboring country, Tanzania, there are onions that come from there. The people of Loitoktok and Kieni are growing onions. But because of the EAC common markets, we don't levy duties on products coming from, no taxes are paid on products coming from Tanzania. We also take our products, like you are saying, you take your products to Sudan without paying duty. They bring their products without paying duty. But we need to protect our onion farmer in Loitoktok and in Kieni. And why we have failed as a country is because we don't negotiate properly at the EAC Council of Ministers to protect our farmers. Because it's possible to exempt and say, for this particular product, our country is disadvantaged and we need to levy duty so that what is coming from Tanzania becomes more expensive to protect our local farmers. It is that, what I wanted to know is, what would you do now to negotiate better? Do you have the appropriate negotiation skills to go and negotiate for Kenya?
Through the Speaker, actually what is happening normally when the two parties that are supposed to be enjoying their own sovereignty are involved, what you do, you really have to have the skill of communicating, negotiating, consulting, so that at least you come to an agreement on give and take. Because I personally feel there's nothing impossible when the willing hearts sit. And of course, we already know so much of what is happening in the world has come out of negotiation, consulting, reviewing. So if I happen to be appointed to this docket, that will be my work. I will make sure the partners, my equals in those countries, are able to agree. We can share the report because I know we are beginning from somewhere. We are not starting from a plain ground. Actually, we will have the concept of what may have happened, and then we discuss based on that to do give and take so that our own customers, our own, because of course something, when a product comes cheap, it is good to their customers, but bad to the producer who is doing the same locally. So what we need to do is, we need a situation where the producer does not take advantage of the consumer, and the consumer as well do not suffer, but again are able to accommodate and get these products at a price of give and take. And for Kenya, definitely being a Kenyan representative at that time, if that time come to pass, then it will be my role to get into the trade, negotiate with those people, agree, of course as consulting also with our own farmers on something that we will put on the table as they put theirs. So we agree finally on what the policy that would govern that free trade without disadvantaging any part of the country.
Your questions?
Then only one of the Azimio is left.
Yes, go ahead.
Through the chair, through the speaker, that was then. That was then that I was among the panelists that were able to choose the deputy party leader of our party person then. Actually, you know, sometimes you work things as they appear on the table. I did fairness. Every party that was there had their representative. They had their candidates also wanting the same. So there was no way I would take over. It's only issues that, as you said, issues on the table. We agreed, and we said the parameters of somebody who would suit a running mate should be like this, and those are the binding grounds through which people are vetted. And the person we got had what it took, because it was not the Odium that picked, it was all political membership that decided the vet. I was only one person from Odium, the rest are from the other representative of the parties. So I tell you, whatever happened, happened because there were benchmark through to operate. I was right at that time.
In any case, it was a political decision.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Junet?
Mr. Speaker, just to add to it, actually, I'm the one who appointed her to that committee. And I was satisfied with her work. She did a fantastic job. But anyway, that's beside the point. No, Kalonzo was going to become the president, Apambele. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, that is not the issue. I want to ask her, as somebody who has lived in Asal area, and you know very well that people in that area, as the Deputy Speaker has asked, have suffered for many years. And most of the time, they complain that they don't get any help from government. But today, you have been nominated from an Asal area to deal with those issues that affect those people who come from Asal area and from regions that feel marginalized in this country, despite devolution being in place and counties being in place that money is devolved. What different are you going to do if you are approved by this committee to help those people who live in the Asal areas? And secondly, you are going to become, if you are approved, the Minister for the East African Community. And you can see the community is growing. It used to be 6 in number. I think now they are 8 or something. DRC has joined. Somalia has joined. How are you going to harness the potential in that community, which now has close to 500 million people in terms of numbers? How will that be, helpful to you if you are approved as a minister by this committee? Thank you very much.
Through the speaker.
Go ahead.
Being an Asal person, one who grew in a Asal, I tend to believe I have what it takes through my own personal experience and through what I was seeing people do in that area. Pastoralists are good people. Pastoralists, if you recognize, if they are made to understand things and then you are there to explain. Pastoralists are good people. They can adopt new initiatives when sensitized. If created an awareness, they can implement things that would be implemented elsewhere. So what I mean by me being there, I'll make sure they're involved in all these things that would improve their lives. Actually, I will be speaking from a point of information on what has been going on. As a pastoralist, I will be better placed to use my experience and my upbringing to make sure these communities actually get what they deserve without being traumatized the way they used to be. You know, I mean, the information that is in circulation has never favored them. It is full of stereotyping. It is just too negative, poor publicity and very negative publicity. When I'll be on board, I will make sure the right information is given, the right analysis is given, so that their lives is going to be improved. At least be sure their own will be on board. And the information and anything that they would want to have will be truly from my personal life, personal experience. So be assured that one will be well done. Now, on the side of the growing economy of East Africa community, just as it is always written in the world of economy, you need numbers to grow the economy. You need a population that would do production. You need, again, a population that would consume what is produced. So if we grow and grow more, that will be to the advantage of the community, because we will have many targets around, they will have many supplies, we will have the mode of trade will really be up to it, because the people that will be producing and the people consuming and the people trading across each member state will be a good population that will grow economy in terms of value.
Thank you, Beatrice. Now we'll take batches of 2, 2, 2, or 3, then you answer. I'll start with Naisula. One question.
Thank you, Speaker. I want to know from the nominee, in case you're approved by this committee and the National Assembly, how you will walk the tight balance between protecting the interests of our country while at the same time taking care of the interests of the community. You know, there are allegations and misconceptions or conceptions that, you know, Kenya and other countries in the community compete, like Tanzania, DRC, Somalia, on other interests. So how will you walk that tight balance between the interest countries and the community's interest? The last question is on issue of relief food. Is it sustainable that in 2024 we are still talking about food, relief food and tendering processes in the areas, the ASAL areas?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and the nominee on the ASCOOL. I want to know, Mr. Speaker and Chairman, how will the nominee balance, or how will the nominee gain confidence now that she has been appointed in the office of East Africa, and particularly on the ASAL, coming from one of the communities which fight other communities in the North Rift and in the entire ASAL? I want to know how she will gain confidence, because now many people are watching, and of course she knows the Bokosa, the Turkanas, are perennial and God-given enemies, and also the Samburus and the Turkanas.
God does not give enemies.
That is what we believe, Honorable
That's
Speaker.
not a statement.
Maybe you will change our thinking, but that is our thinking. So, Honorable Speaker, the nominee is being watched by the ASAL communities a lot. How will she address that issue of the conflict in the ASAL for them to gain confidence from her? Number two, the regional development agencies. These regional agencies, Honorable Speaker, there's been a thinking that these regional agencies are doing what counties are supposed to be doing. They should have actually disappeared and or work for counties. Now that they work in national government, and perhaps now, and in this case, should Parliament approve her, they will work under her. She comes from the counties that believe that these agencies should work for counties. What is her opinion, Honorable Speaker, on these regional agencies?
Yes, nominee, we'll take Gikaria, or you'll rest a bit. Okay, answer those two.
Thank you. Through the Speaker.
And relax, don't be tense. Don't be.
I'm okay, Mr.
Yes,
Mr.
just
Speaker.
relax.
I'm okay.